Hello Year 5, I'm Miss Bradford. I've only met two of you so far when we were in school last week. So for those of you that don't know who I am, this is me. And I am going to read you the second chapter of The Butterfly Lion by one of my favourite children's authors. So I hope you enjoyed the first chapter and hopefully some of you made some predictions as to what you think is going to happen next. But I am going to read to you a chapter called Strange Meeting. And if you look really carefully, you can see there's another character here, somebody wearing a hat. I wonder who that could be. So, the end of the last chapter, he had just squeezed behind a gate. He'd seen some sort of a concrete lion, and now he's hiding. So let's read on. The Butterfly Lion, chapter 2. Strange Meeting. I was still deciding which direction to take when I heard a voice from behind me. "Who are you? What do you want?" I turned. "Who are you?" she asked again. The old lady who stood before me was no bigger than I was. She scrutinised me from under the shadow of her dripping straw hat. I wonder what scrutinise means. Does anybody know what scrutinise means? She had piercing dark eyes that I did not want to look into. "I didn't think it would rain," she said, her voice gentler. "Lost, are you?" So she's obviously interested in where he's come from, and in scrutinising him, she's looking at him really closely, really carefully, examining him to find out perhaps a little bit more about him. I said nothing. She had a dog on a leash at her side, a big dog. There was an ominous growl in his throat and his hackles were all up along his neck. She smiled. "The dog says you're on private property," she went on, pointing at her stick at me accusingly. So perhaps she thinks he's doing something wrong. She edged aside my raincoat with the end of her stick. "Run away from that school, did you?" "Well, if it's anything like it used to be, I can't say I blame you. But we can't just stand here in the rain, can we? You'd better come inside. We'll give him some tea, shall we, Jack?" "Don't you worry about Jack. He's all bark and no bite." Looking at Jack, I found that hard to believe. I wonder what that means. He's all bark and no bite. It's quite a well-known phrase. Perhaps you could ask somebody at home if they know what it means. I don't know why, but I never for one moment thought of running off. I often wondered later why I went with her so readily. Would you have gone with her? Hopefully the answer's no. I often wondered later why I went with her so readily. I think it was because she expected me to, willed me somehow. I followed the old lady and her dog up to the house, which was huge as my school. It looked as if it had grown out of the ground. There was hardly a brick or a stone or a tile to be seen. The entire building was smothered in red creeper, and there was a dozen ivy-clad chimneys sprouting skywards from the roof. If you look carefully, you can see them meeting there. You can see her dog, Jack. Do you think he looks dangerous? We sat down close to the stove in a vast vaulted kitchen. "The kitchen's always the warmest place," she said, opening the oven door. "We'll have them dry in no time." "Scones?" she went on, bending down with some difficulty and reaching inside. "I always have scones on a Sunday, and tea to wash it down. All right for you?" Perhaps some of you had some scones last week for VE Day celebrations. She went on chatting away as she busied herself with a kettle and a teapot. The dog eyed me all the while from his basket, unblinking. "I was just thinking," she said, "you'll be the first young man I've had inside this house since Bertie." She was silent for a while. Why do you think she might have gone silent? Who might Bertie be? I wonder if you can make some connection between the title of the book, The Butterfly Lion, and the lion outside her home. The smell of scones wafted through the kitchen. I ate 3 before I even touched my tea. They were sweet and crumbly and succulent with melting butter. Has anybody heard the word succulent before? Succulent, if something's described as succulent, it's described as sort of fleshy and juicy. So the scones, they're making me a bit peckish, to be honest. She talked on merrily again, to me, to the dog, I wasn't sure which. I wasn't really listening. I was looking out of the window behind her. The sun was bursting through the clouds and lighting the hillside. A perfect rainbow arched through the sky, but miraculous though it wasn't the rainbow that fascinated me. Somehow the clouds were casting a strange shadow over the hillside, a shadow the shape of a lion, roaring like the one over the archway. "Sun's come out," said the old lady, offering me another scone. I took it eagerly. Always does, you know. It may be difficult to remember sometimes, but there's always sun behind the clouds, and the clouds do go in the end. Honestly. She watched me eat, a smile on her face that warmed me to the bone. Don't think I want you to go, because I don't. Nice to see a boy eat so well. Nice to have the company. But all the same, I'd better get you back to school after you've had your tea, hadn't I? You'll only be in trouble otherwise. Mustn't run off, you know. You've got to stick it out, see things through, do what's got to be done, no matter what. She was looking out the window as she spoke. What are your thoughts on this old lady? I personally think she's quite lonely. She's obviously enjoying his company, which suggests what? Suggests that perhaps she doesn't always have much company. She was looking out of the window as she spoke. My Bertie taught me that, bless him. Or maybe I taught him. I can't remember now. Bertie. And she went on talking and talking, but my mind was elsewhere again.